There comes a moment when the silence becomes deafening, a moment where the noise of the world fades, and you're left staring at yourself, not the version others see, but the one you carry quietly through the chaos. Maybe you're here because life feels scattered, you're tired, not just in your body, but deep in your soul, and you're wondering, where did I go wrong? Or worse, can I even fix this? Let me assure you, it's not too late. You are not broken beyond repair. You are simply unaligned with yourself, with your values, with your purpose. And that is a problem we can solve today, because no matter how far things have slipped, no matter how heavy the mess may feel, there is always a way back to clarity. The only requirement, you must be willing to begin, not tomorrow, not when you feel like it, not when the timing is perfect today. So let's begin. It starts by telling the truth, and that means the real truth. The kind that hurts a little when you say it out loud. The kind that peels back your pride and forces you to radical self-honesty is the first step to change. There is no transformation without truth. That's the hard, unfiltered reality. You can read all the books, attend all the seminars, repeat all the affirmations, but until you stop lying to yourself, your life will stay where it is, trapped in a loop of disappointment, self-sabotage, and quiet frustration. Radical self-honesty is not about tearing yourself down, it's about waking yourself up. Most people don't even realize they're lying. The lies are subtle. They sound like, I'm doing my best, or it's just a tough season, or I'll get to it soon, but deep down you know. You know when you're not giving your all. You know when you're procrastinating. You know when you're pretending to be okay just to avoid the pain of confronting your reality. And every time you tell yourself one of those lies, you drift a little further from the life you were meant to live. The truth is, no one can fix your life for you. No one is coming to rescue you. That's a harsh pill to swallow, but it's also the most liberating one, because once you realize that you hold the keys to your own prison, you also realize that you have the power to unlock the door. But it starts with brutal, uncompromising honesty, not with the world, not with your family, with yourself. This kind of honesty doesn't happen in public. It happens in quiet moments, when you look in the mirror and stop pretending. When you sit alone and face the uncomfortable questions you've been avoiding, questions like, what am I really afraid of? Why do I keep making the same mistakes? Who have I become when no one's looking? It's in those moments that your life starts to shift. Because truth clears the fog, it reveals the real problem, and once you can name it, you can finally start doing something about it. But let's not romanticize the process. Radical honesty is painful. It requires humility. It forces you to admit that your choices, not your circumstances, have shaped where you are. It means owning up to the times you gave up too soon, blamed others for your pain, avoided responsibility, or hid behind distractions. It means facing the parts of yourself you don't like, the laziness, the fear, the envy, the bitterness, and choosing to confront them instead of burying them. And yet, in that pain, there is freedom, because the moment you tell the truth, you take back your power. You stop being a victim of your story and start becoming the author of it. You move from helplessness to responsibility, and responsibility is the birthplace of transformation. Responsibility says, this is my life, my mess, my fight, and I'm ready to take ownership. That's where strength is born, not in pretending you have it all together, but in admitting that you don't, and deciding to do something about it anyway. But self-honesty isn't a one-time thing, it's a daily discipline. Every day, you must check in with yourself and ask, am I living in alignment with who I say I want to be? That question keeps you sharp, it keeps you humble, and most importantly, it keeps you accountable. Because without accountability, the lies creep back in. The world doesn't reward honesty, it rewards comfort, it rewards image. But if you want real freedom, you have to let go of how things look and get real about how things are. That means being willing to admit that the relationship you're in isn't healthy, even if it's convenient. It means accepting that you've been lazy, even if you've been busy. It means confronting your bad habits, even if they help you escape for a while. And here's the thing about truth. It's not just about pain, it's about clarity. Once you see the truth, you can start to see the way out. You can begin to align your actions with your values. You can stop drifting and start choosing. You can move from reaction to intention, but it all begins with a question: what am I lying to myself about? That question can change your life. It's not easy to answer. At first, your mind will want to protect you. It'll say, "Nothing, I'm doing fine." But if you sit long enough in the silence, the real answers will come. And when they do, don't run, don't numb them, write them down, speak them out loud, own them. Because the moment you do, you'll feel something strange: relief. Relief that you don't have to pretend anymore. Relief that you're finally facing reality, and once you're faced with reality, you can begin the work of reshaping it. This isn't about being hard on yourself, it's about being honest enough to love yourself properly, because real love, the kind that leads to growth, isn't soft, it's fierce. It tells the truth even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts, and that truth is what sets you free. You can't build a strong life on a weak foundation, and a weak foundation is built from lies, excuses, justifications, stories that let you off the hook. But when you strip those away, you're left with something solid, reality, and reality is where real strength grows. So how do you practice radical self-honesty? You start small. Every day, ask yourself one question: where am I not being real with myself? Then listen. Really listen. Don't judge. Don't run. Just notice. Over time, your self-awareness will sharpen. You'll start to catch yourself in the moment, when you're making excuses, avoiding hard conversations, skipping responsibilities. And in that moment, you get a choice. Do I keep lying, or do I face the truth and make a better decision? The more often you choose truth, the more powerful you become. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop hiding from it. You begin to notice patterns, how certain habits are sabotaging your growth, how certain people are draining your energy, how certain thoughts are keeping you small, and with that awareness comes an incredible opportunity, the power to change. Change doesn't happen in grand declarations. It happens in the quiet decision to face yourself, to say, "I can do better, I will do better, and I will no longer lie to myself about who I am or what I'm capable of." You might be afraid that the truth will break you, that if you really admit how lost you feel, how off track you've gotten, how much time you've wasted, that it'll be too much to handle. But the truth doesn't break you, it builds you. Every time you face it, you grow a little stronger, a little braver, a little more free, because living in truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is always more empowering than living in a lie. Lies cost you energy. They require maintenance. They create anxiety, self-doubt, and inner conflict. Truth, on the other hand, grounds you. It gives you a solid place to stand, and from that place you can rebuild, not perfectly, but honestly, and that honesty will ripple out into every area of your life. Your relationships will deepen because you're no longer pretending. Your decisions will become clearer because they're rooted in reality. Your confidence will grow, not because everything is easy, but because you trust yourself to face what's hard. That's what happens when you commit to radical self-honesty. You become unshakable, not because you're flawless, but because you're real. The world is full of people chasing illusions, building lives based on what looks good, not what feels true. But that's not the path to peace. Peace comes from alignment, when your actions match your values, when your words match your reality, when your life reflects your truth. And the only way to get there is to start telling the truth. even when it's ugly, even when it's scary, even when it costs you something, because what you gain is worth it: clarity, integrity, strength, and a life that actually feels like yours. Radical self-honesty isn't easy, but it is essential. It is the first, most powerful step in getting your life in order, and once you take that step, everything begins to change. Small, consistent actions build unshakable order. The world teaches us to chase the big moments, the breakthrough, the leap, the transformation that arrives overnight and sweeps away all the chaos. But the truth is, that's not how real change works. The life you dream of won't be built in one giant decision. It will be carved into existence by small, repeated acts of discipline, carried out in silence when no one is watching. If you want unshakable order in your life, don't look for a miracle. Build a routine. There is a quiet power in repetition. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't impress people on social media, but it rewires your life. It teaches your mind that you are capable, that you are committed, and that you are in control. The enemy of progress is not chaos, it's inconsistency, and the medicine for inconsistency is simple habits done daily with patience and intention. The problem is, most people underestimate what small actions can do. They think if something isn't dramatic, it's not effective, so they chase the extreme, they look for hacks, they try to flip their life upside down in a weekend, but they forget that what's built fast can fall just as quickly. What's rushed is rarely rooted, but what's built slowly with care, with attention, becomes unshakable. Consider the story of a man who was lost for years. He had every excuse to stay in the spiral: childhood trauma, financial pressure, broken relationships. He'd tried to change many times. He'd set goals, made vision boards, signed up for programs, but nothing stuck, until one day, standing in front of the mirror, he asked himself a single question: what is the smallest thing I can do today that proves to me I'm serious about changing? That question saved his life. That day, he didn't overhaul his entire schedule. He didn't cut off every distraction or run 5 miles. He simply made his bed. That was it. One small, deliberate act of order. And the next day, he did it again. Then he added 5 minutes of journaling, then 10 minutes of stretching. Then he started waking up earlier, just 15 minutes at first. And day by day, brick by brick, his life transformed. Not through force, through rhythm. He learned that structure is not a cage, it's a channel. When you create space for order, you quiet the chaos. When you build rhythm into your life, your mind begins to trust you. Your spirit steadies, and from that foundation, you can build anything. The beauty of small, consistent action is that it doesn't rely on motivation. Motivation is a spark, but routine is the firewood. If you only act when you feel inspired, your life will be dictated by emotion. But if you act because it's who you are, because you've made a promise to yourself, then you become unstoppable. And the truth is, consistency is not about perfection. You will slip, you will fall, you will have off days. That's okay. What matters is that you come back, you recommit, you return to the path. Every time you do, you reinforce the identity of someone who doesn't quit. Someone who shows up. Your brain is always watching you. Every action you take sends a signal about what kind of person you are. When you follow through on the small things, drinking water, keeping your space clean, sticking to your morning routine, you're casting votes for the version of you that's disciplined, grounded, and trustworthy. And over time, those votes add up. You start to believe in yourself again, not because someone told you to, but because your actions prove it. Disorder in life doesn't come from one massive failure. It comes from thousands of tiny compromises. The snoozed alarm, the skipped workout, the phone picked up before your feet touch the floor. These choices seem harmless in the moment, but they accumulate. They chip away at your structure. They teach your mind that your word means nothing. And once your word means nothing to yourself, you've lost your foundation. But here's the good news, the reverse is also true. Every time you do the right thing, especially when it's small, especially when it's inconvenient, you rebuild that trust. You send a signal, I can rely on me, I don't need external validation, I don't need conditions to be perfect. I show up because I choose to. That's power. And what you'll notice over time is that consistency creates momentum. At first it's hard, you feel resistance, you doubt the impact, but if you stay with it, something incredible happens. The actions that once felt like effort begin to feel like identity. You no longer try to be the kind of person who wakes up early, keeps promises, or eats clean. You are that person. That's just what you do. That's who you are. This is how unshakable order is built, not through grand gestures, but through quiet integrity. Through the decision to take your life seriously enough to organize it, through the humility to start small and the courage to stay consistent. And you don't need to do everything at once. In fact, you shouldn't. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to fix everything at the same time. But chaos is not conquered through intensity, it's conquered through intention. Start with one area of your life. Maybe it's your sleep. Maybe it's your diet. Maybe it's finally cleaning your space. Whatever it is, commit to it. Not perfectly, but consistently. Let it become part of your rhythm, then expand. Every small win builds momentum. Every act of order sharpens your mind, and the sharper your mind, the more clearly you can see what matters. You stop reacting to life and start designing it, and in that design you find peace, not because everything is easy, but because everything is yours. You chose it, you built it, and no one can take it from you. But consistency isn't glamorous. It's not supposed to be. It's often boring, repetitive, thankless. But that's where its magic lies. Because in a world addicted to novelty, the ability to do the same right thing over and over again becomes a superpower. It builds discipline, which builds identity, which builds freedom. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. But true freedom means doing what needs to be done, without needing to be pushed, motivated, or convinced. It means living in alignment, and alignment is born from structure. So look at your life. What small routines could you create today that would start building the future you crave? What simple disciplines could you master, not for a week, but for a lifetime, because that's the goal, not temporary change, but lasting transformation, and that kind of change doesn't arrive like a storm. It grows like a tree, slowly, quietly, consistently. Every time you do the right thing, even when you don't feel like it, you water that tree, you deepen its roots. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look up and see that you are standing in the middle of a life you built from the ground up, steady, solid, and unshakable, not because you waited for motivation, but because you mastered the art of small, consistent actions. And from that mastery, everything else becomes possible. Purpose and inner strength must guide every choice. There's a quiet ache inside people who live without purpose. You can see it in their eyes, in the way they move through the day, checking boxes, surviving routines, chasing distractions that promise escape but never deliver peace. They smile when expected, perform when required, but deep down something feels missing. It's not just burnout. It's not just stress. It's the soul's cry for alignment. It's the whisper that says, "This isn't it." Because no matter how successful you appear or how busy you stay, if you're not moving with purpose, you're drifting. And drifting is the slowest form of dying. Life demands direction, not just motion, not just effort, but intention. You were not built to live aimlessly, you were built to pursue meaning. To move forward, not just for the sake of moving, but because you are answering something deeper, something sacred. Purpose is not a luxury, It is a necessity, and when you deny it, you suffer in ways you can't always explain. There comes a point where you have to stop living according to everyone else's idea of success. You have to stop chasing goals that don't belong to you. The job, the image, the approval, it all fades. And when it does, you're left asking one question: did I live a life that meant something to me? But purpose alone is not enough, because knowing your purpose means nothing if you don't have the strength to follow it. The world will try to shake you, people will doubt you, life will test you, and when that happens, you don't need more inspiration. You need inner strength, the kind that cannot be bought, cannot be borrowed, and cannot be broken. Inner strength is not loud. It's not about dominating others or proving yourself to the world. It's quiet, steady, unyielding. It's the fire that stays lit when everything else goes dark. And the only way to build it is by making choices that are guided by your highest values, not your temporary emotions. Every day, life gives you choices. You can choose the easy path or the right path. You can choose comfort or courage. You can choose to be liked or to be honest. You can choose to impress others or to be true to yourself. And every time you choose the latter, your inner strength grows. Every time you sacrifice your comfort for your calling, you become more grounded in who you are. That is how purpose and inner strength work together. Purpose gives your life direction. Inner strength gives you the fuel to walk that path when it gets hard. Because it will get hard, let's be clear, living with purpose isn't easy. In fact, it's often more difficult than drifting. Drifting requires no thought. It asks nothing of you, but purpose demands sacrifice. It demands discipline. It demands that you say no to good things so you can say yes to the best things. It demands that you let go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. And that transformation is painful. You'll lose people. You'll disappoint those who expect you to play small. You'll wrestle with fear, doubt, and exhaustion. But you'll keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Not because it always feels good, but because it's who you are. You'll keep going because you've tasted the cost of living without purpose, and you know you can't go back. That's what inner strength does. It holds the line when everything else wants to collapse, but you can't develop that strength if you keep compromising on what matters. Every time you betray your values for short-term pleasure, you weaken your foundation. You teach yourself that your principles are negotiable, and a person who negotiates their principles becomes a stranger to themselves. You don't need more motivation, you need more alignment. When your actions are aligned with your purpose, discipline becomes natural. You stop asking, "How do I stay motivated?" and start living with conviction. Conviction doesn't fade. Conviction doesn't need applause. It's a compass that keeps pointing north, even when the sky is dark and the road is rough. But you have to make room for purpose. That means cutting out distractions. That means creating space to be alone with your thoughts. That means asking hard questions and being brave enough to wait for real answers. What do I want my life to stand for? What do I value more than comfort? What would I die for, and am I living for it? Purpose doesn't show up all at once. It's not a lightning bolt. It's a slow uncovering, a process of peeling back the noise until you get to the heart of who you are. And the only way to hear that truth is through stillness, through silence, through choosing intention over distraction. When you live with purpose, everything changes. Your mornings are different. You don't hit snooze, not because you feel like getting up, but because you know what you're waking up for. Your relationships shift. You stop tolerating people who drain you because your energy is sacred now. Your goals become clearer. You no longer chase what's popular. You build what's meaningful, and you become someone others can rely on, not because you're perfect, but because you're anchored. Anchored people change rooms. They bring calm into chaos, not by force, but by presence. Because when you know who you are and why you're here, you don't need to shout. You don't need to prove anything. You just move with quiet power. With clarity, with strength. This is what the world needs. Not more noise, but more people of depth. People who live by principle. People who don't fold when things get tough. People who are so grounded in their values that nothing can shake them. Not failure, not success, not criticism. But that kind of strength is earned. It's built through discipline, through discomfort, through showing up when you don't feel like it, through saying no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's essential. And most importantly, it's built through self-respect. When you live with purpose, you respect yourself too much to keep wasting time. You stop numbing yourself with distractions. You stop chasing things that don't matter. You stop settling for good enough, because deep down you know your life is meant for more than survival. It's meant to be a reflection of your values, your courage, and your soul. So you begin making choices that reflect that. You start saying things like, "This isn't in line with who I want to become." You walk away from relationships that don't support your growth. You stop pretending to be someone you're not just to fit in. And every time you do that, your inner strength deepens. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, being honest, being whole. The truth is, life will test you. It will give you opportunities to betray yourself, to compromise, to quit. But if you are rooted in purpose and fueled by inner strength, you will not bend. You may stumble, but you will not fall apart. You may feel fear, but you will not be ruled by it. Because you know who you are, you know what you stand for, and you know what you're building. This is how unshakable lives are built, not through ease, but through intention, through the quiet, steady resolve to live with purpose, and the inner strength to protect that purpose at all costs. And the beautiful part is, the more you live this way, the more natural it becomes. What once felt like sacrifice begins to feel like freedom. You're no longer chained to distractions or desperate for approval. You're not at the mercy of every emotion. You're rooted, clear, grounded. That's what happens when purpose and inner strength guide every choice. You don't just survive, you rise, you endure, you lead. You become the person you were always meant to be, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, not because the world changed, but because you did. There is a fire inside you waiting to be reignited. Maybe you've been tired, lost, maybe you've let life pile up until it feels too heavy to face, but I promise you, you are stronger than you think. You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to decide that you're done living like this. That you're done drifting, that you're ready to fight for your life, not tomorrow, today. Order is not a fantasy. It's a series of choices, made in silence away from the crowds, choices that say, I will rise, I will build, I will become. So take a breath. Stand up and begin, because your life is not over. It's just waiting for you to take the reins.